Hello and welcome back to my channel. So I just finished reading Where Angels Fear to Tread by Forster. I read it on Kindle. I also have it in book form here, but this was just kind of big to lug around, so I picked up the free ebook version on my Kindle just to make reading it a little bit easier. This is my third novel by Forster to read. I have read both Howard's End and A Room with a View. I read both of those earlier this year. So this is my third of his novels to read, and this is actually his first novel. So I started with Howard's End, which is one of his newer. It came out in 1910, whereas Room with a View came out in 1908, and then Where Angels Fear to Tread came out in 1905. I believe those dates are right. I hope they are. So Where Angels Fear to Tread is also an Edwardian novel, just like A Room with a View and Howard's End. So it's very much a character-driven story, very dialogue-heavy, very heavily descriptive. Beautiful scenes, beautiful descriptions of both the set pieces where the story takes place and also of the characters themselves. It's a very sad story in tone, and honestly it starts off sad and it really maintains the same kind of depressing shadow kind of over the story the entire time. I don't want to give too much of the story away, just because it's a short enough novel that I'm afraid that if I say too much, I'm going to ruin the reading experience. But basically, it's the story of a family getting destroyed from the inside out, essentially. And so the main premise of the story is we have a woman named Lilia, who is a widowed, wealthy English woman, who at the beginning of the book is traveling to Italy with her traveling companion and close friend Carolyn Abbott. Together they go to Italy. While in Italy, Lilia falls in love with a much younger, poor Italian man named Gino, the son of an Italian dentist, so not of a noble birth at all. And so she falls in love with Gino and decides to stay in Italy. So Carolyn Abbott returns home to England. The whole family, instantly upon hearing this news of Lilia falling in love with a non-noble Italian man, they are shocked, disgusted, appalled. They are immediately thinking about themselves and not about Lilia, about what this will do to their family name if it comes out in their social circles that one of their family members is romantically engaged with a man of non-noble birth. So right out of the gates, they are completely a narcissistic, self-focused extended family, not thinking of Lilia at all, thinking only about what this is going to do to the family name. And basically the story goes downhill from here. Lilia stays in Italy with Gino and marries Gino, and soon after becomes pregnant with his child. This is much to the chagrin of her family back home in England, who are trying to do everything in their power to stop Lilia from making what they think is the biggest mistake of her life. They are trying to pull her back to England before anything else can happen. They want her to come to England to have her baby so that at least her child could have a chance of living the proper life in their estimation, which is being raised as an English gentleman and not as an Italian, which in their mind is a lower form of life than being in England and being raised in the proper English way. And so they send representatives from their family to Italy to try to persuade Lilia to come back home. Of course, those members of the family make it much too late, and Lilia has already died while in labor delivering her son. And so Lilia dies halfway through the book. And that was probably a major spoiler, but I'm going to go with it anyway. I'm in too deep now to not spoil anything. So she actually dies halfway through this novel, and the rest of the story, the rest of the conflict that unfolds throughout the remaining sections of this novel are basically her extended family home in England trying to gain custody of Gino's son to bring him to England to raise him. And so through the rest of the novel, more members of Lilia's extended family travel to Italy to try to gain custody of the child. They end up sending Lilia's sister-in-law, Philip, along with a woman named Harriet, who is Philip's sister, and Caroline also goes back to Italy. While back in Italy, Harriet and Philip both fall in love with Italy and decide that their mission of bringing this boy back to England to raise him in the proper English way, really, that's not a concern anymore, because they see the life that he could be living in Italy, and they're quite enthralled by the magic of the Italian countryside, and so they kind of drop their mission of what they were trying to achieve, of retrieving this infant and bringing him back to Italy. However, Harriet's still not completely convinced that that is what she would like to do. That's simply what Philip would like to do, and she ends up kidnapping the baby from Gino to forcibly return the child, or bring the child back to England. And on their trip back to England, the carriage that the child is in overturns and the baby is killed. And this sends Harriet into a mental breakdown for the remaining portion of the novel. And it is hinted at that she stays in this mental breakdown state for the rest of her life. So now we're at the end of the book, and all the characters are returning from Italy to England. But before they leave, Gino attacks Philip, of course, because he hears the news of the death of his child, and he assumes Philip had something to do with it, and he physically lashes out at Philip. Caroline is able to mediate this fight between the two of them to bring them to some sort of terms with each other, and Philip learns a lot about himself at the final portion of this book. So then on their train ride home, Philip and Harriet are riding together, and Philip declares his love, or is planning to declare his love for Harriet, which he has discovered he has been feeling for quite some time over these last few days under the magic of Italy. And so he's planning on professing his love to Harriet, and meanwhile, right as he is about to profess his love to Harriet, Harriet blurts out that she thinks she is, or that she does not think, but that she knows that she is in love with Gino, and that she knows that she'll never be able to fulfill her desire of being Gino's wife. And so Philip is crushed by this, obviously, and so he never professes his own love for Harriet. So the two of them return back to England, where they are forced to continue to live in each other's social circles, Philip being in love with Harriet, and her not knowing it, and Harriet being in love with Gino, and Gino not knowing it, or I'm sorry, Caroline. It's Caroline who's not Harriet. I switched the names. Harriet is basically in a disintegration phase in her mind. She is just disintegrating, falling apart, going incredibly mental, growing very depressed, and just becoming a shell of herself. And then it's Caroline and Philip who are the ones who return on the train ride together to England. I had those characters flipped in my. I said the wrong name. But everything else I said was correct. So returning home, Philip and Caroline are in this kind of very strained relationship, because Caroline is not in love with Philip. Philip is madly in love with Caroline. Caroline is in love with Gino, and Gino doesn't know it. And he never will, because her family won't allow her to return to Italy, because they have too much negative association with everything that happened with Lilia there. And so the novel basically ends with all of the characters being unfulfilled, all the characters being very much changed for the worse by all of these events. Of course, Lilia is dead because of what happens during the course of this novel, and so it's just a very depressing read. It feels quite heavy when you're reading it. It's beautifully written, however. The dialogue, the scenes, the descriptions, just the prose themselves are beautiful, and I really enjoyed the reading of it. The actual process of reading was very enjoyable, even though the story itself was quite heavy. It's not a humorous book. It's not a dark comedy. It's just very bleak. It reads like a rainy, bleak day. And it just sort of stays that way. The sun never peeks through the clouds at any point. It sort of just stays very gray and bleak through the entire reading process. And so it's not a lighthearted, light felt read, but it's definitely deserving to be read, and I certainly enjoyed it, and I would certainly see myself rereading this again in the future. And so I mean, I would highly recommend it for any fans of Edwardian England, any fans of Ian Forster. It's a great book, and I would highly recommend it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read Where Angels Fear to Tread, please let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And if you have read of any other Ian Forster novels that you have enjoyed, also let me know down below. I'm always loving to hear more about his works. He's becoming one of my new favorite authors of this year. Also, if you would like to, please feel free to subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.